Hey friends, welcome to 1 Minute with Monet, a podcast where we help busy adults live life with balance and harmony 1 minute at a time. I'm your host Monet, owner of Time Managed LLC, a full-service concierge and personal assistant business in Atlanta, Georgia. Visit our website, timemanagedllc.com, for more information about our services. Every week, I'll share tips for how you can manage your lifestyle and tackle your to-do list efficiently. Before we get into our discussion, let's listen in to our quick tip for the week. Hey friends, welcome to another edition of 1 Minute with Monet. June is National Productivity Month. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, but productivity is about how you use those 24 hours. I like to mix a little old school with the new school for maintaining my productivity. So I make a manual to-do list and I like to check things off those lists. I also block time off my calendar so I can have dedicated work time. So I put my phone in focus mode and then I get to work. The other thing I like to do is use AI tools. Now these are a great way to be productive and level up your efficiency. I use AI a lot for my creative tasks and to do some of the research that I do for the work that I do. AI can also be a game changer when it comes to managing your tasks, optimizing your time, organizing those tasks based on priority, deadlines, and even effort. There's also some tools that can analyze your workload and then suggest optimal time slots for you to do your work, to have meetings, and to even take breaks. Now, if you do want some flexibility, there's some assistance in AI that can remind you when to switch tasks and reschedule priorities if you have to shift things around. Now, for more tips on how to use AI, tune into my full episode of the podcast with my special guest, Nick Dixon. Until then, be well and be balanced. Hey friends, welcome to the next edition of 1 Minute with Monet. Today, I am so excited to have here with me my friend and realtor, Nick, aka Nick the Realtor Dixon. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here.
That's good. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? How long have you been in real estate?
So I've been in real estate since 2013. Prior to then, I was actually in pharmaceutical sales. And prior to that, I went to Florida A&M University. Rattlers all day long, where I received my MBA. And I started a real estate team actually during the pandemic. So the 2020 year was a big inflection point for my career in real estate. And from there, once I started managing a team, started managing agents, assistants, that's when I really started digging in, I think, deep into my journey in productivity and figuring out how to maximize my own productivity, but also the productivity of the people around me.
Yep. So we're not here to talk about real estate. We are here to talk about productivity, right?
Yes.
And so I'm really excited to hear how you use it because I think you sold us our house. And at that point, you were telling us about ChatGPT and how you were learning Spanish and all the great things about it.
Yes.
And just recently heard about your expertise in productivity. So happy to hear from you and share that with my audience. So June is Productivity Month. We are always trying to figure out how to do things easier, faster, more efficient. And what was your first thing that you had to give up and say, this has to be done better? What was that thing?
So for me was when I first hired my first assistant, actually, one of the coaches told me to just walk around. It sounds hokey. They said, walk around with a plate. And then it's like a paper plate. And as things happen throughout your day, just write down on that plate things that you don't want to do. And that was a point when I started learning how to think about how do I offload some of these things that I'm doing. And at the time when I started doing that, there was no ChatGPT. So there were only my assistants that were human resources that I was unloading those things off to. And now I've used that same philosophy as it relates to AI.
And so were you also learning how to delegate? Because as things came on your plate, I'm sure there was a little bit of control that you wanted to keep and have. So you had to learn how to delegate, it sounds like.
I did. And so for me, there was a couple elements. There are certain things, even to this day, I still struggle delegating certain tasks. But one of the things that I've learned is how to even if there's a big task, for example, as it relates to a contract in real estate, there's a whole process that goes from beginning to end called contract to close. And it's a multi-step process. I've pretty much taken that entire process and delegated it. But I'm able to monitor those steps as they go along the process. So my assistants have like a step-by-step of everything they're supposed to do, but I'm carbon copied on that. So I was able to create the system that I used and then have someone else do it, but then I can also monitor it and make sure all the steps are happening. It's just I don't have to do them, which takes a bunch off of my plate.
And so that monitoring still helps you have that feeling of comfort that things were getting done and they were getting done right, so then you don't have to worry about any rework.
Correct.
So that's probably a big fear for a lot of people when they think about delegating to others.
Yes.
You know, am I going to have to do it over again? Are they going to understand what I need to do, how it needs to be done? I encounter that sometimes too in my business. So with being a concierge and personal assistant, my name and my brand is at stake. And so anything that I delegate to my team, I have to make sure it's done with excellence, or else I'm not going to have that client anymore. In those learnings, I've gotten smarter. So anytime they've done something wrong or they may not have been as clear, I try to go back and then fix it and make it a part of the process. So here are the checks and balances. Here's a screenshot of how it should be done. Here are the questions we should ask. So as mistakes happen, we do become smarter, but then I'm still trying to delegate and be a better delegator by making sure that the input of the information is better.
Right.
So what are the things that you now delegate, or how do you use AI to, well, let me back up a little bit. There are a lot of AI tools out there. Which are your favorite and why?
So at this point, I don't even know if I can tell you all of the ones that I'm using. I probably am using over 10 different AI tools. Some of them are built on some of the bigger ones that you've heard of, but I will say of the major tools, and we'll talk about large language models. And the large language models are like ChatGPT was the first one, which I do use. I also use one called Gemini, which is through Google. One of my favorites is actually through a company called Anthropic, and it's called Claude. And Claude is a monster when it comes to business analysis. And we can talk a little bit more about Claude, but it's got some really cool, interesting features.
Okay.
And there's another one that's tied to Google called Notebook LM, which is super interesting.
I've seen that.
The Notebook LM, because with that one, it has a couple of features. One is you can feed it YouTube videos. Like you could take literally 100 YouTube videos, plug in all the links, and then interact with it and ask it questions about each of those YouTube videos, and it'll pull together information. And it's like having 100 videos of your favorite creators to ask questions about a specific topic. How long would it take you to go through 100 YouTube videos?
Oh, forever.
Literally, you could take 10 minutes, plug all those in, and then start interacting with it right away. And then on top of that, they have a feature for podcasts. There are real human sounding voices that will discuss your topic in podcast format.
Really?
And you can actually interact with it, point the direction. So they'll be talking about, let's say we were looking at your productivity, your favorite productivity YouTubers. You could plug that information in, ask it some questions, go ahead and get the podcast started. And then you can say, well, hold on, what are these influencers saying about AI? And then it'll direct the podcast and it'll start talking about what the influencers are saying about AI.
Oh my goodness.
And you can actually take that podcast, download it, and repurpose it however you want. Like you could interact with it if you wanted to and put out your own content with those podcasts. So it's
Right.
interesting. There's a lot of cool stuff coming out.
That sounds like it. And also sounds like there are two pieces of it. So you can have the productivity side to help you manage your day-to-day life. But if there's something new that you wanted to learn or that you wanted to do or create a new business or enhance your business, there are things that we can use AI for that are going to be used as resources for our businesses.
So this past weekend, I went into ChatGPT and I went and found all the materials that I had. So I found marketing materials. I found different forms that I use, like team agreements that I give when people join the team, along with all the benefits. I plugged in even things I use for my buyer consultation, for my listing consultation. I plugged everything into ChatGPT. And then after I did that, I just said, just read it, don't do anything. And it was like, okay, I read it. The next thing I did was there's this feature called Deep Research. And I went to Deep Research and I asked it to pull down the top agents in the country. And I wanted to see their brand concept. And then I described what a brand concept was. So mission, vision, their value proposition, their target audience, all of these things. Deep Research went in and started pulling all this information together for me. And it came back with quite a few agents. You may have heard of, for example, it used as an example, Rand Serhant, which is a top agent out of New York. He was on one of these HGTV shows. I then asked it to look through my materials and then try to come up with a brand concept for me and my brand, utilizing the principles from the top agents in the country. So then it came down and pulled together an entire brand concept for me. And then from there, I was able to drill down. I was able to ask questions, make tweaks, but it was an amazing starting point. And at this point, I'm still not done with the process, but I'm able to go back in through an iterative process and keep taking it up to the next level. So one of the things they came back with some ideas on a brand concept that I was a little concerned about because it was a little edgy. And I said, I don't know about this. And it said, why don't you A/B test it with some Facebook ads? And then they gave me a whole plan of like, test this one versus test this one and see what kind of response back you get. So really you can utilize the AI to take something that might take you a few weeks, months to do, and you can do it in an afternoon.
That is so interesting. And how do you know if you have the right prompts?
There are a lot of different ways to do prompts. So actually, if you go online, Twitter, it's not Twitter anymore, I guess. You go to X or you go to Instagram or all these different places, there's lots of people who just give away prompts. So there's lots of prompts that you can pull from people. I do a little bit differently. I'm a little bit of a garbage in, garbage out person. If I were to go to ChatGPT and say, make me a brand concept, I'm a real estate agent, it would have come back with some hot garbage. I mean, it would have been super generic. What I did was I fed it a bunch of information. And when you feed it a bunch of information, what you get back is usually much better. So I use a little bit more of an iterative process. One of my favorite tools now, and I just started using this within the past month, they put in this microphone. Now, there's actually two buttons. There's one button where you can talk to it live like a person, but then there's a microphone that actually does like this transcription for you. And I'll just do a brain dump. So I'll hit the button and I'll say, all right, listen, I call it chat. Some people give it a name, a cute name. I just call it chat. I'm like, listen, chat, here's what I'm trying to figure out. And then I'll just start talking, just brain dumping into it. And it is amazing how it's able to break down and synthesize what I think is just complete, almost gibberish, but somehow it's able to pull out what it is I'm trying to convey.
So the transcription, do you use a transcription piece or the microphone?
So it is a microphone that transcribes. So you hit the little microphone button, and then what it does is it writes the text for you. So when you finish, you have this whole huge block of text of what you've said. So you can actually go in and read it if you want and make edits or add things to it. You can even do it multiple times, multiple iterations, say, oh, I didn't say enough. And you can hit the button and it'll keep going.
Got it.
And then you hit enter, and then it'll come back with whatever it is you're trying to figure out.
So it doesn't have to be perfect.
As a matter of fact, I almost recommend it not be perfect. I mean, it can figure out spelling errors and figure out context just because what we're trying to do is not be perfect. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't actually think. It's just reacting. So it's the time that you're saving. So if you've got a thought, sometimes I'll be in the car and I'll just have a thought and I've got my phone sitting up there with my GPS. I'll open ChatGPT and hit record and I'll just start talking. Just talk. Because sometimes I get my best ideas while I'm driving in the car. I can't write.
You can't write
and
it
I'll
down.
just talk, and then hit the button. And then I'll hit it again and say, I want you to run a deep research on blah, 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 blah. And then I'll ask it to write it for me. So that's another secret, is you can actually ask chat to write your prompt for you. I'll say, based off of what I'm trying to find out, I want you to write me a deep research prompt. And then also look at what I'm not saying and include that too.
Yes, I've done that. Is there anything else that you need to know in order to make this an effective answer or, a better answer? And then they'll ask me a few questions and then I'll answer them. It's pretty cool. I don't get as deep as you do, but I have a couple tricks that I do enjoy.
Those are really, they call that meta prompting.
Okay.
That's meta prompting, when you're asking the robot to help itself.
That's wild.
It is.
That is really wild. So I'm going to give you a couple scenarios that I would like to be better in and see what your advice would be. So I've had my business for 10 years, and I actually not only have the concierge service, but a part of that I have travel. So with the concierge service, I have several email addresses for my team as well as for myself. I have a inbox that is fed from my website, and also through Linktree or however else anyone finds me, there might be a direct message. Additionally, I have a travel website that is kind of a subset of my business, but it's still something I have to pay attention to, not only for my clients, but also for future clients that may want me to organize travel for them. So I'm inundated with emails from several different places. What would be your recommendation for me to efficiently go through those emails and perhaps even decide which ones I should answer or prioritize?
So there are a couple things. Base level, right? I'm not going to go too deep on the first answer. Is ChatGPT, there's actually something you can create your own GPT. So
what does that mean?
So there's actually on the left side, it'll have GPTs there.
Okay.
It's a personalized bot for a specific purpose. So you can go in here and they have it set up where you can say, I want you to take on my persona to just be here to respond to emails for me. I'm going to upload a bunch of samples of the types of emails that I get in addition to how I respond to them. I want you to take on my tone of voice, the way I respond to messages. I want you to categorize the types of messages that I get and how I typically respond to them so that you can be here when questions come in. My team can then get started in responding to these messages based on the way I would. So once again, right? There's a balance between delegation and control. So what you could have your team do is go in, monitor, and just create drafts for you. And then you could go in once a day and take a look at the drafts that are written and say, I wouldn't say it this way, make some adjustments. This was perfect, send, perfect, send. So now, instead of you sitting there trying to figure out what is this saying, what does this mean, you could even get it to the point to say, before you start the email, give me a quick 3-sentence synopsis of what this is all about. So you could quickly see exactly what it's all about and then jump into it. So there's a second layer, and people are doing this lots of different ways. I would say if it's your first soiree into AI, what I just described is probably the easiest. There are also some integrations that you can use. So depending on which type of email service you're using, Gmail has one that's kind of built into it where you can click on one button and you can just kind of say, I want you to respond to this email like this, and then it'll write it for you really fast. And it's built in to the Gmail natively. There's also, if you use Outlook, Copilot is their AI, and they also have what I understand to be a very detailed search function. So you can search through emails, and it does a really great job, and then also helping you to formulate emails. Mm-hmm. And then there's a whole other level if you want to pay more money. There's a couple of, I don't use this, so I can't vouch for any of the companies, but if you Google, you can find some that are AI-enabled like email providers that help you organize all of your emails utilizing AI so that you can do those things like prioritize your emails, send you alerts, it'll help write emails for you, those type of things. So there's different levels to it, but the most important thing is to start at the level where you are and where you feel the most comfortable. I wouldn't recommend somebody who hasn't spent a lot of time with AI going out and getting one of these services and jumping in head first, because you're going to end up probably creating more work for yourself than you wanted. But anybody can go in and create a bot that their team can then use. You just send them the bot and say, hey, use this and respond to these messages.
Yes, right.
And then they plug in the message, it spits it out, and then they just put it in. So it helps, it's helping your team to be smarter. Depending on what level your team is, they might even be able to do that first layer of auditing of the emails for you and proofreading them so that when you get it, you're literally just kind of just checking to make sure everything's right and sending it off. Okay,
that makes sense. What about email cleanup? So I probably have 1 million emails. Is there a free option that will help go through those? And it's actually also something that my clients have complained about in the past or have said like, oh my goodness, I have 1 million emails. Is that something that you can do or your team can do?
So one thing that I will say about that is I have the same problem.
Okay.
My email cleanup is quite bad. Although I watch a lot of videos about different things that people are doing, and I do understand that there are some tools not only for that. I heard somebody was talking about with file cleanup. With files that you could upload those into ChatGPT and they'll rename files for you
Really?
based on the content inside. I didn't even know you could do that. I just saw that
Okay.
the other
I
day.
have to look that up.
But what I would so for me, right, I don't have all the answers, but one of the things that I love to do, so a use case like that, I would just go into the AI and I would say, all right, here's a big challenge that I'm having is my email systems. Do you have any suggestions of how I can utilize AI, or how are people in my position utilizing AI to clean up their emails? And they'll give you a whole bunch of different ideas as well. So it's one of the other ways I love to use it.
Okay. Do you use any calendaring or time blocking strategies with AI?
I don't use so I have taken my calendar and plugged it in and asked it, what do you think of my calendar? And then ask it for suggestions for, this is the way that my brain works and this is how I operate. Can you help me to be more productive and efficient with my day? Here are my top priorities. And then it was able to come back with some really solid, suggestions, for ways that, so I like to, I work out and I eat almost every like 3 hours.
Okay.
So then I was like, oh yeah, by the way, I eat every 3 hours. So we need to factor that in. But also, and then they were just like, okay. And they were like, can you eat a little earlier? And I was like, I guess. I was like, okay, eat here. And then if you eat here, you have this solid block of time to do your deep work.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So they made little adjustments and all of that. So yeah, it was extremely helpful in that sense. So I didn't tie it into my calendar, although there's people who do that. But for me, I just plug it in and it's there.
One of the other things related to my team that I'm really trying to work on is not only delegating, but making sure that when I do give someone something to do on my team, that they're doing it efficiently. As an example, to create a meeting notice for a flight that we've done for a client, it should only take you 5 minutes tops. But if they may not understand the task or they have questions, how can I use AI to make sure that that team member is being efficient?
So I know earlier I said, don't run out here and buy all these different like apps. Here's an exception. If you are a business owner, you have got to get a subscription to Loom, Loom. So Loom is, I would say, saves me the most time of anything that I use, because if there's a repetitive task, I only have to do it once if I use Loom. So for example, if I've got to show a whole bunch of houses and I need to put the route together, I have a system for how I want to do it. 15 minutes in between, blah, 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 blah. Look at this, go to this, click on that. I just do that one time and I screen record it and show exactly how I do it step by step while I'm talking. Now, here's the brilliant part. This is new. Once I hit end, there's a button in Loom for SOPs. I can say, this is an SOP.
Really?
You hit the button and it automatically makes a document of step by step everything that you need to do. So from there, you hit the button, and also at the bottom has the link to the Loom. I put that into a Google Doc, and then I just send that to my assistant. I don't even have to have a meeting. I don't have to have a conversation.
Right.
I literally send that and I say, hey, I want you to do this. And now it's forever evergreen in the cloud for her to access whenever she needs to do it. So she doesn't have to come back and go, Nick, I forgot how to do this. I don't know how to do it. It's right there in the step-by-steps, and she's got the video. So at this point, whenever I get a question, I rarely answer it directly. I answer it with the Loom and I send it over. And now that assistant or any other assistant that needs to utilize it has access to it forever. So if you've got something that you do over and over again, I mean, to me, Loom is one of the most powerful tools. And I think it's $20 a month that anybody can have.
Ironically, I was looking at it last night and I created a Loom video for something that a college student is going to help me with.
Okay.
And I remember Loom from, I don't remember when I even used it. Somebody sent me one and I said, well, let me see if I can do this. And I didn't know about the SOP part though.
Yes.
Because that is on my like strategic plan to make sure that we have those SOPs or standard operating procedures. But it just seemed like such a daunting task that I have to sit down. I know I can use Loom to record, but now like, how do I document it? But thanks for that tip because now I don't even have to type and document what I'm saying.
The other thing it does is give you a transcript. So if you don't like the SOPs that it gave you, you can copy the whole transcript, put it in a chat GPT and tell it how you like to do your SOPs. And then, or you can create a whole GPT specifically for SOPs and just plug it in and it'll spit out your output exactly how you want. For me, the way Loom does it is fine. The other thing that it does is it'll even extract value from your Loom and give you like tips. Here's some quick tips and here's some pitfalls, things to avoid that I didn't even say in the video. Wow. It just read it and then figured out like, oh yeah, they should probably be aware of that. And I'm like, I don't even know how. That's good. I didn't even know that.
Right, so you're learning as you're trying to teach other people. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. It's so brilliant. I can't wait to use it. I'm probably going to sign up for a subscription now. Yes. You sold it. So Loom owes you some money.
Wait, I might be able to get a referral link or something.
We'll put it in the chat. We'll give it to you. Yes. We'll put it in the notes, the podcast notes for this episode. The other thing that I'm working on or even thinking about for my team, so as we scale, I want to make sure that we are providing excellent service, of course, but also doing it efficiently. And so that means tracking time. So I gave you the one example of the meeting notice, but there are other things that clients can come to us and ask. So a dinner reservation or check flights, or I need a plumber. Can you take care of that? So all of these things are coming in. So one, I do have to see who's available on my team and give that to them. But then I also have to get back to my client, let's say within 24 hours, depending on how soon they want it. So if it's a party that they want us to plan, of course, we might be able to take a week to get started on that, or at least to respond with some options. But if it's a plumbing situation, that's like, I need you to do that probably by the end of the day. Or by tomorrow. So there's two pieces of it. How do I find the person who's available on my team to take care of it? And then how do we measure how much time we're spending on that research and how long does it take us to get back to the client? And using information of here's all the services we provide, all of the things that our clients can come ask us, and here are the corresponding times that we should, one, reply back, and how long should it take to do the research or to complete the task. So
one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is how can I get my team using the AI resources more? And one of the things, as you were talking about, like some of those tasks that come in, Gemini is amazing for those types of tasks.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is Gemini is owned by Google. So it's tied directly to flights and hotels. So Google Maps. So one of my friends asked me to do this and I was like, yeah, I've tried to do this in the past. AIs aren't good at this. And he was like, well, just try it. He said, you told me Gemini was better. And I was like, okay, let me try. I was blown away. I was like, I want to go to South America sometime in like July. I don't know which country. Can you just find me the cheapest one-way flights from Atlanta to there and list out the countries in order of the cheapest flights with the least amount of layovers? And it did it. And it came back and asked me like how many days. I was like, I don't know, do like 5 days. And it came back and actually gave me the real flights and actual specific dates for the best flights. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, this is crazy. I did the same thing. I was like, I want to find a hotel in this city. I want the newest ones and at least this many stars, and I don't want to go over this price. And it came back and pulled me like 5 really nice hotels that I don't think I would have found without utilizing it. So, you know, as it relates to the team, it's really them switching their thinking around. And to your point, there's a lot of different tools that are out there. There's one I have on my phone called A Timer. I was reading, what book was it? I want to say it was, I wish I could remember the name of the book, but one of the recommendations, and this was before there was tech, this was an old school leadership book. He recommended literally writing down every day, what you do and seeing how much time you spend on everything. And he was like, just do that for a week. And then there's so many insights that you can get from that. Well, there's an app called A Timer, and you can organize it based on the things that you do. So you could have everybody in your team download A Timer and say, I've got a challenge, right? We're going to take the things that you typically do in a day. We're going to record how long it takes you. And then utilizing AI, let's see if we can take each of those activities and cut the time in half. You know, so you get like kind of a baseline, and then you can track it. They can send it to you. And then from there it's to say, okay, challenge. Can we figure out how to make those things cut that time? And it took you 30 minutes. Can we do it in 15?
Right.
You know, and at that point, you've got them thinking outside of the box. Okay, can I do this in 15? And say, go to the AI and tell it your challenge. It took me 30 minutes to do this. How can I do it in 15 utilizing AI?
Yeah.
And then from there, you've now taken your team and you've literally doubled the productivity in a week.
Yes, yes. I love that. And I also like creating a baseline. So in my mind, yes, it might only take me 5 minutes, but is that unrealistic for the average person? It may only take me 15 or 20 minutes to do a quick research on flights, but is that unrealistic? So by creating a baseline for the team, now I know what my team is capable of.
Right.
And then we can work on improving. So I think from a business perspective, business process perspective, I think that's really valuable too.
Especially with a business like yours where literal time is money.
Exactly, exactly. And our motto is like, we do it all so you don't have to. And we are maximizing your time to minimize your stress. So if we are truly living up to our motto and what we stand behind, then we need to figure out how to do things more efficiently all the time. What other tips do you have, or how do you are there things that you are showing other people that this audience may be able to benefit from in their day-to-day?
So I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit more about Claude and some of the features that other AI has. So I love Claude for two things. One, for coding, building websites. I didn't even know it could build websites.
Okay.
I forgot. I was asking it I wanted to build out a calculator that basically an agent could figure out, if I make this number of phone calls, what's the value of this phone call? How much money does this phone call mean to me? And I wanted to create this calculator. And I thought I was going to do it in Excel. And I went in and I was just like, hey, can you make me this calculator? And it was like, sure. Would you like a website for this calculator? And I was like, you can make me a website? And it was like, sure. And then it just went, and then it opened up a new window and it was coding. And I was like, what is happening? And it was coding, done. And I was like, and literally this was like 3 minutes. I downloaded it to my computer. HTML was there. I double clicked on it, opened. It was a fully operational website calculator. And I was just like, what? So if you've got a concept or an idea, now sometimes it has little bugs. It's not always perfect, but it used to be you had to go hire a team to build out a website. Now you can just ask Claude to do it. The second thing is Claude is brilliant with business analysis. So if you want to forecast your business returns, if you want to run analysis and figure out what is my return on investment for this project, it puts together beautiful, brilliant reports as it relates to business analysis. So I love what it's able to do. Like I took out my P&L, and then there is a book that kind of breaks out like, this is how much you should spend on marketing. This is how much you should spend on staff and all these different things. So I took my P&L, I plugged it in, and then I asked it, can you compare the standard to my business and tell me what opportunities I have in order to improve my business? Okay. I mean, it ripped me to shreds, but it gave me something to aspire to, and it gave me and I actually was able to go and say, okay, can you give me some action plans for how I can get closer to the standard?
I hear that ChatGPT sometimes does that, like rip you to shreds, or tells you about yourself. Well, that's really cool. I don't know, is there anything we're missing, or?
I think that covers
it.
Yeah,
well, thank you so much for being here. Yeah. Tell the audience how we can find you, whether it's real estate or if you're going to give us some other tips.
Who knows what I'll be doing? You can find me on @NickTheRealtor, NIC, no K, @NickTheRealtor, NIC the Realtor on Instagram. I would say that's probably the easiest way to find me. And every once in a while, I'll be on there giving some AI tips. I don't cook very well, but I go on there to give some cooking tips from time to time, and real estate as well. So if you're interested in AI, real estate, or some what do you call them? Productivity heavy cooking tips.
Okay.
Because I'm not a chef. So if you're trying to figure out how to cook something in 5 minutes, I got you.
Right. Well, I'm going to be sharing how I utilize some of your tips and some of the things I'm thinking about for my business. So I'll share that with you. I'll tag you on a couple of them so we can see how I'm implementing this advice.
That's perfect.
So, yeah. Well, you do the same. So if there is anything that you learned today from Nick the Realtor, make sure that you tag us and share it so we can all get better together. Until next time, be well and be balanced. Thank you for joining me this week. Let's continue the conversation on social media at 1 Minute with Monet on all channels. Also, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Until next time, be well and be balanced.